What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Strength Solutions Podcast. We're on Apple and Spotify. You can rate and review us. Check us out on YouTube. Leave a comment down below. Hit the like, subscribe. Our website is strengthsolutionspodcast.com. Our email is strengthsolutionspodcast@gmail.com. Our TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, Strength Solutions Podcast. I'm Strength Solutions Edwin.
I'm Strength Solutions Nathaniel.
Okay, dude. Ultimately, you have failed.
I know.
Because all you do is bilateral work.
Bilateral.
You don't do unilateral work. You got to do your lunges, your Bulgarians. You even got to do alternating chest press.
The other day, let's see, what was I doing? I've been getting kind of tired of working out the way that I have been for a while now. So I'm like, not burnt out, but I'm like, man, I don't want to do this.
So you're feeling your failure.
I'm feeling it because I've only done bilateral work. And so I did throw in some lunges and things like that, but it's funny because people always ask me like, what's your least favorite exercise? And I'm like, lunges.
Wrong.
I hate them. They're
Bulgarian
so
split squat.
Yeah, I mean, that's another good one.
Any split squat.
Yeah. Any time
reverse
I have
walking
to
lunges.
one leg, I don't want to do it.
They call them good old one leg Nate.
Two leg Nate. Two leg.
Two leg. No, so I just want to bring up, like, I think what a lot of people miss is they get so hyped up and so into the deadlift, the squat, the bench press, that we forget over time your body becomes reliant on one side more than the other.
Yeah.
And then we create these imbalances in the body, and that's when an injury happens. Or you're like, I'm stuck and I can't get any higher in my squat or my bench or my deadlift. It's a great time to go to a unilateral working program.
Yeah, I think it's a good mental break, and it really helps even out as well. That's why I kind of caution people against just using machines only or things like that.
Bro, but I got to get hypertrophy.
Which, I guess, is true. But if you're looking for sort of that overall health and overall, functioning body and everything like that, obviously you probably do a mix of those things. And even if you do machines, they have machines that work unilaterally, like a lot of the hammer strength machines. I like those, the plate loaded ones where you can kind of press, individually and stuff like that. Now, if you're trying to work on stability and stuff, you probably want to go for dumbbells, things like that. But I think every good program should have a unilateral phase somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there is different ways that I like to use unilateral work when it comes to like evening out the body. So way number one is anytime I'm doing unilateral work, maybe my left leg's weaker than my right. I'll start with my left leg to do it that way. Or if I'm going to start out with my right leg and I hit, let's say 12 reps, and I only get 8 with my left, I rest for like 20 to 30 seconds, and then I finish the set with the left. So the left can catch up to the right versus making the right have to stay down.
I saw like a concept like that a while back where they were talking about how you kind of go by the weakest link, right? Like it's like, oh, if I'm doing a dumbbell chest press, my right side could probably do 30 pounds, right? But my left side, I can only do 20 or something like that. And they're like, instead of, like you said, sort of shortchanging one side, make the other side work, right, to get to that point. So I think that's a good way of doing it, is making sure that you're kind of going by not the weakest link, but like the strongest link, really, right? Like, okay, if my right side, I can split squat a 30-pound dumbbell. Like you said, take those micro rest periods in between and make sure you get all the volume in on the opposite side so that you're not like, well, I'll just do 20 on my right, until, because then you get nowhere. Right? You sort of just spin your wheels at that point.
Yeah. And then also, let's say we're doing a single arm bench press. What it also does, it makes you counterbalance.
Yeah.
So if you're here single arm chest pressing, I got to use the obliques to kind of counterbalance, use my ribs as I'm pressing through a little bit more. And it makes sure you work on your stability a little bit more than just powering through because your whole body's balanced.
Yeah. I mean, that'll really challenge you. I also find that I'll use it for clients who like to not do full ranges of motion. I'll sort of force them into doing like a alternating chest press or something like that. And you have to come all the way down, because we're just doing that one side. So you can't be all like, and I, a lot of the times my clients will be like, wow, it's so hard. Why? Like, if I'm just doing a normal dumbbell bench press, I can do 50s, but here I can only do 25 or something like that. And I'm like, well, because you're going the whole damn range. So,
take the ego out.
yeah. It takes the ego out, right? And it makes you focus on the struggling areas.
I really think that's the big reason why people don't like doing unilateral.
Yeah, that's
even
fair.
though it's very beneficial, is to take that ego out.
Right. Yeah.
I know even myself, sometimes I'm like, do I really want to do these single leg squats?
Yeah, because I'm like, I gotta do walking lunges, dude. I can't even. I'm gonna just do body weight, man. That shit sucks.
Yeah.
Because then I'll be like, well, I'll grab the 50s, and I'm like, nah, I can't do it.
I'm done. Yeah. And then I like unilateral work because it forces you to slow down. You can't just output like you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
I think people go too fast. I think that's the big point. Single leg RDLs, they'll just go and try to touch real fast. No, you have to balance and get your core going.
Those are super hard.
And then with the Bulgarian split squat, you got to find your balance, and then you got to power vertically, because if you don't, you're going to go tip forward, right?
Yeah. You make a good point, because I've had people do like step ups, right? Or something. And they're like, God, I hate doing these. They take so long. And I'm like, yeah, they do take a long time. But that's sort of the point. Like you said, it's forcing you to kind of slow down and focus on every single aspect of it, the stability on one side versus the other, and all of those things, instead of just like getting under a bar and squatting and bang, 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 and I'm done.
Yeah. And it's a great way to, get stronger, actually. It's just unbelievable how many people just skip that phase, and then they get so strong and they get stuck. They're like, what do I do now? Well, go into unilateral work.
Yeah.
It's that simple. So you want to lose weight, right? You take Ozempic.
Yep. That's what you do.
Now you could go to F45 and do it.
What?
Did you not see that clip?
That's insane, dude. So they're offering it there.
They're going to start partnering with Ozempic and start offering F45.
Is there going to be like
coaching with it?
Under the direction of who? Is there like a doctor on
I'm
site
assuming there's
something?
like a doctor program kind of thing, and there's probably going to be coaches who are going to help facilitate it.
Like some sort of telehealth type thing, maybe?
Probably.
Yeah.
But you're going into an intense workout, eating a lot less. And when I mean a lot less, for a lot of people, they're probably going to be in dosages that they're not going to really eat at all.
And then you're going to go in.
I don't think the workouts are dangerous, but it can lead to injuries, and then it can lead to more breaks.
It's like all of the
because
things,
you're just not getting enough nutrition in.
Each one of the things separately in itself is like fine. But you kind of combine them all together, and it creates a really scary, like perfect storm type of
just
effect.
Just because it's usually a high intensity environment.
It's just a high intensity workout, right? You got to be ready. You're going to get beat up. It's going to be intense and difficult and hard. And then you go in and, like a lot of my clients who've taken it, or, I haven't really had too many clients who've taken Ozempic, but I have had a lot that have taken the other two.
Mounjaro
and Wegovy. Yeah.
I'm trying to hear Wegovy. I think about let's just wave it out, guys.
They all complain of really severe nausea, like super low appetite where they have to just force themselves to eat, and a lot of fatigue. Those are the three main things that I hear.
The more and more I learn about that stuff is that it's the dosing that's the problem, right? We give this basic dosing when there's individual dependence and needs. A lot of dosing is too high that they start with, but of course their goal is just to lose weight. So if you start the dose at 0.25, then you're not going to eat at all. Of course you're going to lose weight, right? Versus maybe starting someone off with 0.05 and then 0.10. 0.15 and then slowly bring it up.
So a lot of the times too, I don't know if you know the answer to this. I don't know if it's just like the numbers
they
researched or whatever, but it's like, I know they come in like injectable pens, right? And the pens have
how they patent them.
Have like a dosage on them, right?
Yeah, it's 0.25, 50, 75, and 100.
Yeah.
Typically.
Why can we not do like 0.3 or 0.4? Like,
so with the compound pharmacy, you can.
Okay.
So there's injectables through compound, right? Like, it's just not brand name.
I
see. That's the thing, right? So the pens are a brand name, and so like the pen is what makes it patented. Right.
I see.
And so that's how,
because it's like
they sell it by their research.
I have a client,
but research is not always applicable, as we know.
Right. Yeah. Because I have a client who's been taking one of them, and she was doing 0.25 for a while, and was like, I think she was losing about maybe a half pound or a pound a week.
It's not
and
bad.
no, it's not bad at all. And I think that she was like not really having too many symptoms. You know, she said it helped her really like curb the like desire to drink, as well as like, you know, just kind of lowering your appetite a little bit. And then she was like, oh, I'm supposed to go up to the next dosage this like coming week. And after like 2 weeks, she was like, I can't do it. Like, it's fucking me up. Like, I just feel sick and tired and all this stuff. And I'm like, maybe you should go back down. But I'm like, what if her perfect dose is somewhere in between that? You know?
Well, not only that, but if it was working at 0.25, why go up?
Why go up, right? But it's like, I feel like they just
But doctors don't know how to handle it.
They're just
all
like,
the times.
oh, now it's 6 weeks, so you're supposed to go up now, you know? And it's like,
the more I learn about medicine, the more I know it's about individual effective doses. And that's why opioids have so many different types of dosing, different types of strengths. It's just each individual reacts differently.
It's
so
so
you got to
weird,
find
yeah.
it.
Because I asked you that same question. I was like, when you were on 0.25, did you like stop losing weight or something? Like, why? You know, and she was like, no, it's going okay. You know, like I hadn't stopped losing weight yet or anything. And I'm like, then why are you going
it's
up?
because the doctor gets how the company wants you to do it, right? So there's this generic formula, right? It's like us giving, like our workout programs are foundation that we sell, right? So you got like Amplify, right? And you do that. Well, for every individual, it's going to be beneficial, right? But you may need to change the order, or you may need to change this one exercise for you individually, and that'll make the program actually better and more effective for you. So we talked about like, you're having trouble with your squat. Well, maybe the calf raise is at the beginning, so that way you can work on your ankle mobility, and then you go into the squat, right? That's where I think doctors who are just prescribing it and not really taking it serious, and just because there's doctors I do listen to, they're like, it's all based off individual, and most of them work with compound pharmacies,
and then,
so they can control those factors.
And then you go and you give it to F45. Like, oh man, that's.
I mean, they're gonna be partnered with the doctor, and there's gonna probably be coaching and all that stuff. Because there's no way they're gonna just sell it without a doctor. Because you can't get a prescription without a doctor.
They sell them the slinging Oz on the streets,
and they're probably gonna tell the coaches to say something or whatever. At the end of the day, I think it's a tool. It's not like the answer to everything. You know,
it concerns me when businesses start getting like sponsored by medication. You know. I'm like, that's a dangerous road to go down.
It's actually great marketing for them, because if you go to F45
it's genius.
And you're taking Ozempic and you're losing weight, you could say it's the workout program and push it into
everybody wins.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but except for the consumer.
Except for the consumer, the customer. Damn.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Oh well. Hey, so so when you were single, you could have used a wingman, right?
Yeah, that would have been nice.
Yeah, I wasn't there for you. I'm sorry.
You weren't there for me yet. I didn't know you yet.
Not yet. But did you know Hinge and Tinder is going to have AI Wingman?
That's kind of insane, dude. Are they going to, like, I saw that they were going to help with building like your profile, right? That's one of the things that I saw. But I also wonder if like
they're probably going to help like commenting.
See, because I was going to say, like, I wonder if during conversation, it's going to be like, okay, this might age me a little bit here. But remember when you get on Word document and Clippy would come out and tell you how to do stuff?
Unfortunately, I'm that old.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I wonder if it's going to be some sort of a similar concept where it's like, oh, if you match with someone and you tell them like, you know, hey, what's up, whatever. Like, is it going to pop up and be like, you should say this, you should say that?
She likes, from her profile, she likes to be saying words like this.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it does that.
Because
AI is so adaptive.
And I'm like, I guess that's cool, but also I'm like, how is it going to work then whenever you meet in person and you're like not the same? You don't have that personality, or you're not good at conversation.
I already think online dating is not great.
It's hard
because you're looking at if you're really looking for someone and you're looking at, they work here, they have this, all you're doing is looking at a resume. So you're not really looking at the real person.
You're checking off a list.
And then two, because we're so disconnected, your friends can vet people for you. Your family can vet people for you. And that was a big process.
That's like a big process of dating. Yeah. Right? You got to like meet the friends, and do they like you? And then they got to have the council meeting about you.
With music and everything, you have hoods.
Yeah.
Like
you know what's so funny?
Like when Camille was here. Nathaniel, we got to talk about Camille.
When I'm gonna really be careful with what I say right here, but I was talking to some of Camille's friends the other day, and we were talking for a long time, and they were like, you know, we really like rooted for you, like at the beginning, like, you know, we like when we first met you, we were like, oh man, I hope Camille meets him and keeps him around and stuff like that. And I was like, it's so funny because that stuff matters, you know. Like I'm pretty sure they said something to her, and you know,
we
Camille,
really like him.
yeah, and then Camille was like, oh well, maybe, you know, and it's like this whole human like mating ritual is so fucking complicated. It's crazy. Yeah. It is. It's insane, dude.
And I think that's what's lost is a lot of these people, like in Gen Z, I was listening to, like, I think half of them have like one parent, or their parents are divorced, or maybe not even parents around. And it makes me think like, well, you used to be able to go to your parents to talk to them, or siblings. A lot of people don't have siblings anymore to talk to. Yeah. And so like, how do you vet these people without like a good trusted group of friends? And let's say a lot of people don't have a lot of friends anymore because they're always working on themselves. They're working on themselves. They're online. You know,
I saw
build that environment?
Too. I don't know if you have it on here, but I was watching something the other day that was like the pitfall trap of constantly working on yourself.
Oh,
like,
I saw that.
Yeah, like where you're like constantly being like, no, I need time. You know, I'm going to take time for myself. I'm going to isolate, and I'm going to keep working on this, and, you know, and I got to go to therapy and all that stuff. And while all that stuff I think is important, you're not meant to just like constantly go through this self-improvement phase. You know what I mean?
Well, not only that, the routine doesn't cause your self-improvement. Your actions cause your
self-improvement. Like at some point I feel like it's more important to go apply it, right? Like it's like, okay, instead of looking at everything and being like, these are all the things that are wrong with me and I can't go outside until I'm done with it. You know, it's like at some point you got to go and do it.
I'll give you a perfect example. I think at one point in my life, I was like reading book after book, listening to podcasts, but then until I started applying, then things started to change. It's
so funny that you said that, because one of my clients who, you know, he told me that he had gone through like this really hard breakup a long time ago, and it really like fucked with him, you know, like he was like, oh my God, like what just happened? You know, I thought I had all this stuff. And he said the same thing. He was like, I sat down, I started reading all these books about like how to, you know, communicate and how to talk to girls and how to, you know, the perfect, you know, one-liners and all this stuff. And he was like, yeah, it helps, I guess, but at some point you have to just like go out there and actually like start working, you know, like making it like a plan.
How many people have like started a business plan and they keep on changing the business plan,
but
they never do
it. One of my clients just started his own business, and I was asking questions. Yeah, congrats. And I was like, what would you go back and tell yourself, you know, now that you've like finally done it and you like, you know, you left the place that you've been at for years and all of these things? And he was like, I think I'd tell myself not to wait so long. Like it was just,
that's a good one.
Yeah. And I was like, like it really kind of put stuff in perspective for me too. And I was like, all right, man, like, you know, he was like, you just have to go do it. And like, you're probably gonna be fine, you know? I was like, okay.
I really think, people get stuck in that revolving door.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's insane to me how many times you see that. And I think it has to do with what we're told online. And so me and Amanda have talked about recently, a lot of people look at social media and they see this on social media, right? And we were having this conversation. There's apparently a documentary about like a lady who was like a YouTube family person, brainwashed, and I don't know the whole story.
I think kids
were malnourished, and abused, and everything looked fine on YouTube, right? Mm-hmm. But the people who knew around her, there was something up.
Something's wrong. Yeah.
And when you watch things on YouTube, or when people say things about a certain country, like America or Spain, England, Africa, and they're like, we thought this when we got here, or we used to think this, and it's just like, those are just perspectives because of the life you lived.
Right.
And you don't know if they're true. Mm-hmm. Right. And
true
to who?
And the only things that you know are things that you've been told, or things that you see, or things, whatever, you know.
You know, like, I like some of our friends, and they do certain exercises and stuff. And they're like, this is the greatest exercise routine. Everybody should be doing this. but you're not talking to the individual in front of you. You're talking from your perspective.
Yeah.
And you got to pull away from that, right?
I think
that's the hard part.
Like making content like that, I think is fine too. If you just like preface it, you know, and say like, this is what worked best.
But nobody does that because it got to go viral.
Yeah. Cause it's got to be
chasing that click. Click, 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 click.
Maybe you get an AI wingman and they tell you what content to make, you know?
We need robots on here to take over everything.
Oh man, that's going to be interesting, man. I wonder how online dating is going to progress from there.
Dude, online dating is going to go away. I bet.
What? You think so? I don't think it'll go away.
I think
it's just because.
I think maybe not in our lifetime, but maybe like by our kids when they get older. And I think I already see this with functional medicine. Now you're starting to see functional dentists, which I learned about today.
What?
Yes, bro. I'm going to share you the podcast.
Okay.
It's awesome, dentist. Right?
He's doing a squat.
Like what, you know, like how eating affects or how things are acidic, and you're finding out why your teeth are like that versus whatever.
Versus, or you're going to
let's just fill this cavity out.
Yeah.
Well, let's see if we can save the cavity without having to do that, right? I think we're already going back into a movement of humans getting back into that realm, but I do think there's going to be a divide, right? There's going to be the group that goes back, and then there's a group that's going to go into brain rot and just scroll.
Yeah.
Right.
Scroll.
And then you'll see the difference. And then as they go through that, you'll see.
That's what I think too.
You'll see the difference.
I think that the people that do like online dating, or maybe are super uncomfortable or whatever, are going to just like fall more into it, right? And then other people are going to be like, no, this isn't good anymore.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And then I was listening to a podcast this past week, right? And they're mentioning like therapy culture. So therapy culture is pretty much a religion at this point. And I was really thinking about this when they were talking, is therapy, just like religion, has become an excuse to do something for humans instead of taking accountability.
Yep.
And so whether it's like, oh, it's because God let me do this, right? Or the universe told me to do this.
Or when something bad happens, right? It's
right.
Like, the devil. You know,
the devil took over or whatever. Yeah. Or now with therapy, instead of like sourcing it to God or the universe, now you're sourcing it to, well, I grew up with this attachment issue. That's why I'm like that.
Or my therapist told me I need to let you go.
And so it's become this religion of using verbiage to not hold accountability and change.
Oh, damn. Yeah. And this is not a new concept that we've talked about, right? We've mentioned this a few times. And I think that it becomes like almost like a manipulation tactic. I think I see, especially in like relationships or even just like friendships and things like that outside of like romantic relationships, right? Where you're just constantly like, oh, well, I fucked up because my anxiety just, I can't deal with it. Or
it's my attachment issue because my parents didn't love me when I was younger.
And that's just the way. And then everybody has to go like, oh, yeah, you're right. I shouldn't be so hard on you or whatever. And it's like, it's not an excuse. And it's funny because Camille is obviously like in this realm, right? Like she has her bachelor's degree in psychology and shit like that. And she's like the first person to be like, look, it's not an excuse. Like I get it, like I know that you have this issue or, cause she has issues too and stuff, but it's like, you can't just sit there.
Everybody does, right?
Yeah. But you can't just sit there and be like, well, my childhood, this and that. So I'm just fucked up forever. Like, it's like, okay, well you gotta go fix that then. And
it's very me-centric, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, you have to, like be like nice to me about it, like you can't hold me accountable because I'm not accountable. Something else happened and that's why I'm like this.
It's crazy. And
I like that though. I like that.
Yeah.
I like blaming other people.
It's because my parents, they're divorced and my dad and my mom.
That's why I don't want to do this right now.
But, I just feel like we've gotten like from one extreme of like using God and then we're going to go to another extreme and then faith and religion's going to come back and they're going to go to another extreme.
It's all
right?
cyclical.
It's just like cyclical of like figuring out like who to blame. People just don't want to take accountability and people don't want to change. It's hard to change.
It is, right? And that's like, I think that's okay, right? We can recognize that. But
also I think people judge and always want to like dictate what others should think.
Yeah. Yeah, that too, right? Where it's like, no, you have to believe what I believe, right? You have to understand what I'm saying and things like that. And it's like, don't really. I can
maybe there's
I can
a happy medium somewhere.
I can accept what you're saying, right? I can accept that that's what you believe, right? But that doesn't mean that I have to sit here and do it too.
Yeah, I think there's like a happy medium somewhere. And I think like humans were just attracted to these ends, right? Yeah. Whether it's fitness, we're attracted to people who like lift a lot, they're big and they're strong. They're just genetic freaks, plus they work hard and all that stuff. And we're like, we can get there.
I also know that like when I was taking my biology class, we went through like a taxonomy section of it where you're like talking about classifications and stuff like that. And I don't know if maybe somebody asked it or the teacher just mentioned it in something, but she was like, humans have this like tendency to want to box things in. They want to make it fit into some sort of like organized pattern or something like that. And that's why there's all these like taxonomic levels, you know, like there's like genuses and families and species and race and all this stuff. And it's like the same thing with this too, you know, it's like, no, I have to fit in a box. I have to fit here because I don't know, something with our brains just works that way.
I don't know. But I also think because we're global and social media and like, so for example, there's podcasts I like that are really good, right? But if I was to ask them, or I was thinking about this too, about Reddit, right? And we ask these questions on Reddit. Well, I like reading them, but I always think to myself, I know nothing about this person.
Yeah.
How can I give them advice? Because I don't know how they think.
Yeah.
But yet there's millions of people underneath, and I should say millions, thousands of people, hundreds, giving advice. Like they know this person in this situation or how this person thinks. And I was like, maybe they are the asshole, but they don't sound the asshole because they're writing it from their perspective.
Of course they're not.
And then also, what if stuff that they did earlier is what festered into this situation now? But they're not telling you.
Yeah, because they want you to just validate them. Right?
And this is why we need to go back into small communities. I think we're just meant to be in smaller communities.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah.
We're not meant to be this big global thing.
Like
we're meant
30 people max.
I mean, we could be in cities and stuff. It's just, we got to like go back into like our small groups within cities and stuff like that.
I want to live in a tent.
Well, you can do that, bro. I'll stay in the house.
I'll make smoke signals.
All right, before we go into studies, I want to talk about, we love lifting. But I want to talk about mobility and cardio. Don't forget.
I'm going to go. I don't want to talk about that.
And I think this is a big perspective. We're changing our workout routines here.
We are, yeah, pretty soon.
We're not going to say what it is, but we're going to go into cardio and mobility, a little bit more endurance, conditioning. I've already started and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
I just needed a change.
I've been doing a lot more cardio as well. I'm doing a lot more of the assault bike. I'm really trying to incorporate that into like my workouts and stuff. You know, I liked when we worked out with Austin, and remember he like had us do the assault bike beforehand. I was like, do 12 calories, then go do this, go do that, go do whatever. And I've seen a lot of strongmen do that online and stuff. And I think I was mentioning this to you one day, and I was like, I didn't understand why they were doing it. I was like, what is the point of that? But then I realized that I was like, oh, they're trying to be able to output as much power in like a fatigued state. You know, so they're purposely fatiguing themselves and then going and like maximal lifting something else.
Build that endurance.
Yeah. And so, you know, like taking some of those concepts and applying them to what we're doing here. You know, we were talking about training for power and all those types of things. And I think it's going to end up being a really cool experience, because I can say that I've never really trained like the way I'm going to train.
Well, I've done the extreme marathon.
Yeah, you have, right? Yeah. You ran a full marathon?
A full. Oh my God. 3 hours and 23 minutes.
And
then,
the only thing I do for 3 hours is play video games.
Yep, sounds about right. Hey, is Christian on real quick so we can play?
Can Christian play? He's doing his homework.
God, let him go. All right, let's go to the first study. The first study says exercise and healthy eating behavior together provide the best protection against cardiovascular disease. Researchers found that women who exhibit disturbed eating behaviors and engage low physical activity tend to be more central body fat and higher risk of metabolic low-grade inflammation. So with this, I think we know this. I think we find these research articles and I think to myself, like, even when I was listening to the functional dentists, we need to go into behaviors and how do we become healthy as a society versus leave these researchers, let them do these extreme things. But as a society, how do we become healthier together? How do we create these habits? Because that's the only way we're going to get better.
I agree. And it's funny because, you know, we see this, and it's one of those things where I tell people all the time, I'm like, if I asked you how to eat healthy, you're probably going to be like 80% right. You know, everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing.
Mostly whole food.
Yeah.
Fruits, vegetables, meat.
Yeah. And it's like, it's less about knowing and getting more information and more about learning how to, I guess the theme of this one is like applying, right? And like applying that information.
I got to apply for a job.
Take accountability.
Okay. Oh, accountability. Mufasa.
and like, you know, actually applying that information. And, you know, I tell people all the time too, I'm like, if I get clients who walk through the door and their goal is weight loss, I'm like, you probably chose one of the hardest goals possible. You know, like it's, if you want to get strong, that's,
well, not that they're not ready for weight loss.
Yeah.
Because they haven't even built a foundation of muscle.
And it's so behavioral based and habit and like, you know, like trauma and shit like that, like plays all these roles into like how
therapy.
I know, therapy talk again. I can't eat right because
my past,
because my dad was mean to me.
I know you're making fun of it, but some of it is true, right? Like,
I'm being silly, right? But it's like it's one of those things where it's so based on your like behaviors and habits and things like that. And while the research is good, and sometimes, you know, we look at it and we're like, why are we still doing research about this? Like, we already know.
I just think we need to like culturally change.
Yeah, there has to be like
we're
large shift.
Into like, I got to prove my research and we know we need to eat healthy and we need to exercise.
I don't need
How are we going to do it? We should be at that point right now.
Yeah.
Not still researching, exercise is going to help. Oh, like, no, we need to start
I know.
just working out, eating well.
Right.
Get the foundation. If a majority of us are at the foundation, then we can focus on, spirulina or Golgi berries or.
I don't need another article telling me to eat carrots. You know, like I need an article.
By the way, did you hear carrots are bad for you?
Oh yeah, did you see that? I think
post,
I sent you a post that it was like, if you read all these books, then you won't eat or drink anything at all, because it was like all of them contradicted each other and said not to do the other thing.
Not to eat meat, not to eat vegetables, not to eat carnivorous flowers, not to eat this. Yeah.
It's like, don't drink water, drink water.
Don't have ice water.
Yeah. Sleep, but don't sleep.
God, dude. We're so fucked up because of all this research.
I feel bad for people, man, like the general population and stuff. I mean, it's hard for us to figure out what's, you know, real and
I think because we've been in this, we kind of know, like, just get your calories, get your protein.
You can vet it pretty easy.
Exercise. And as we go through this process, and this is what we tell clients all the time, give us like a year or two to kind of like figure out what foods digest better in your stomach. If you don't have a CGM that you're going to be wearing, it's going to take time to figure out like what works. And two, you're new to this, so you understanding your signals, they're just not going to be there. I mean, I recently have a client who all of a sudden his shoulders are moving, all of a sudden his spine's moving. I've been working for months, and I was like, it just takes a while for your central nervous system to be like, oh, I need to do this. You're not going to like loosen up right away. And I was telling them the most unjust thing we do to people is physical therapy for 16 weeks.
Oh.
And you're better.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. It's going to take you like a whole year.
Yes. Yeah. And then even after that, it's like you got all this other time that you need to do, you know, to figure out how it's going to work or what you need to do and how you feel and mental aspect of it.
Just like this next one. Exercise reduces falls in elderly women with polypharmacy. An exercise intervention aimed at elderly women was successful at reducing falls, especially among those with polypharmacy, a new study shows.
What does that
so
mean?
Polypharmacy is when people are taking like 4 to 5 prescription drugs at a time.
Oh.
And so they tend to be elderly and they fall at that point. So they've noticed a high risk at that point. Again, of course, exercise is going to help.
Yeah.
We're just meant to move. Yeah. And there's, I think it's funny that people like, I need the data. Yeah. It's the same thing over and over in just different ways. And when are we just going to exercise? Just exercise.
I was watching.
You know what I was going to tell you? Like, I know we are very movement quality specialists.
Yeah.
But I would argue just walking and moving is going to be beneficial to your pain overall.
Yeah. There's so many benefits to that. I was watching a video from RP Strength with Dr. Mike, and he was saying, he was like talking about consistency in the gym and how he's a PhD doctor, really. He's why he's Dr. Mike. And he was like, all the research and everything and whatever, like if you're not being consistent, then it just doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, you should just be trying to be consistent over and over and again, doing the same things and doing it for a long time. And that's like at the end of the day, what's really going to do it. And that you need to stop trying to find this like magic pill or secret shortcut. And that's why there are all these like stupid books, you know, about like, don't do this and do that, because you're trying to find like the secret, you know, there's gotta be a way. I do have the secret. yeah, we do have the secret. It's like in 5 years of working out. It's like, but you don't want to hear that, right? You don't. You want to.
Okay, a perfect example. You do something as simple as a TRXT, and then your client's like, "Oh, that's gonna be easy. I could do that." And then
yeah.
It's simple. It's a simple move.
There's so many exercises that I show clients, and I could see in their face that they're like, "Why?" You know? It
didn't look like how you did it.
And then I'm like, okay, go do it. You know, and they're
I've been
like
squatting for 10 years.
Yeah, and they're like, fuck, that's really hard, you know. And I was like, you have 3 more sets.
And you have like 1,000 more to get close to me.
Yeah,
dude. It's just, I don't know, man. I'm really been trying to figure out like, I think right now we're in a information age, right? Well, we are, right? There's information everywhere. We need to be in an applied age.
Yeah.
Just actively doing it.
Age. Yeah.
And then it's like a lot of people who are going to school and they're like, they go to the workforce. They're like, school didn't teach me anything. That's how I felt, right?
Yeah.
I just think we're at a point in life where there's information everywhere. College should just be application at this point. Like, you should go to school, maybe take 1 or 2 classes YouTube and then go apply. Yeah.
And learn how to do a lot of shit.
You probably could learn how to do surgery on YouTube. Wouldn't doubt it. Wouldn't doubt you'd be like, oh, this is how a surgery is done. And then you could like mimic it. And like, I think you could be anything at this point without a degree.
You probably could, yeah.
As long as you're good at it.
I would say at least like
I'm not saying I'm not going to go to someone ready to do a surgery, but I'm just saying like you could go through a whole process without school.
I would definitely agree that any trade at this point could be like acquired just by getting on the internet. And doing it for like a year or 2.
All I do is set up my robot.
yeah. Or like, you know, fucking with your AC unit or something. Like, I bet you could just learn that shit. You know?
I learned how to clean my own AC unit.
Yeah.
Or replace like certain things in my car. Just, it was on the internet.
You could probably just learn how to do it.
Yeah. I'm not going to say it would have been much shorter if a mechanic did it. But,
yeah, right. The convenience factor is different. But
it's just, I don't know. Just apply. All right. Fitness questions. Fitness questions number 1. Where do you see fitness headed in the future?
AI Wingmen.
I will say that. Right?
Yeah, really.
I really would say that. But where I think is, I think we're moving into an era, right? I think there's always going to be bodybuilding and physique people.
Yeah.
But I think people are starting to realize, I just want to feel good. Mm-hmm. And I think training's going to change into that.
And I don't necessarily feel like that comes from the gym. I think it comes from the fact that everything else quality wise, like nutrition, sleep, stress, work-life balance, things like that are like declining. And so that in turn changes the perspective of fitness, right? Because now people aren't worried about, you know, getting a 6-pack. They're worried about not feeling like shit anymore, you know? And so I think that that's why it's kind of moving in that direction until those other things get changed or fixed or switch or whatever. Like, I think fitness will continue to move that way. Which I don't think is a bad thing.
All right. Question number 2. How much protein am I supposed to eat as a 150-pound individual? Well, you could do 0.6 to 0.8, right? I always tell people try to hit that goal of 150 grams because I know you're going to fall short.
Right.
So if I tell you hit 150, you probably hit 130, which would be right enough. Okay. About 120 would be enough.
It depends on your goal, right? Like if you're just trying to, I don't know, maintain or like be healthy or just like get an ample amount of protein, like you said, 0.8, you know, is probably fine if you're trying to.
They've even shown you could gain muscle on 0.8.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially if you're like new or things like that, I bet you could. Yeah. Because the reality is that you probably at the moment are getting far less than that. Right. Like, you know, I'll ask clients, you know, I'll say, what'd you eat yesterday? And, you know, I kind of know, we know like, you know, amounts, and I'll be like, so you got maybe 50 grams of protein.
I know. I've done that before. They're like, what do you mean? How do you know? I was like, well, about a 4-ounce chicken is 32 grams. And they're like, how do you know that? I was like, I've done this enough times.
Yeah. And so I'm like, you are not even close to getting as much protein as you're supposed to. But, people will be like, would I eat oatmeal? And I'm like,
oh my God. Did you just throw a scoop of protein powder in there?
No. Then you got 2 grams of protein in there. And, but yeah, it depends on your goal. If you are trying to put on muscle or get stronger or something, we kind of recommend like 1 to maybe even 1.2. I've heard as much as 1.5. But you gotta understand, this would be real hard, especially if you don't eat protein now.
But I also recommend track first. Let's say you are at 50 grams of protein. I don't want you to go to 150. I want you to go to 70 because we also got to get adaptability in your gut microbiome.
Yeah.
And I think this is where a lot of people go wrong. Yeah. They just try to go straight to that 150. They're like, I'm stuffed and I'm bloated, and they feel like they're frustrated, and then they don't reach their goals.
Yeah. Or I find that a lot of people are like, oh, does that mean I can just drink like 2 protein shakes then? And I'm like, no.
Why don't you try to get through real food? I mean, if they want to do it at the beginning, but then eventually change one shake into like an actual meal.
I always tell them, I'm like, you can maybe like start with that, but at some or this is what I tell them. I say like, okay, here's your goal of protein. Let's try and do this, try and get there for the next 6 months. If at 6 months you're just like, dude, I can't get the last 20, like it's just not happening. Okay, cool. Then you can have a protein shake. But before then, you got to try and eat it.
All right. Question number 3. When you have kids, how do you make time for working out?
You don't put them outside.
No. So there's like working out with your kids, right?
Yeah.
Or like you got 10 to 15 minutes and you do something 10 to 15 minutes, have a pair of dumbbells at home or whatever. And this is how you do it. Like that's the only way to do it. You shouldn't look at it as an hour block anymore. You should look like, I got 10, 15 minutes here. Let me just do a squat and whatever. Let me do push-ups here and there. Your vision of fitness just has to change.
It just has to be a different perspective. I think a good idea sometimes too, because I think about this a lot also, and it's kind of what I do, for the most part, is that I just choose like one exercise for the day. So let's say, okay, Mondays, I'm going to do my squat, and that's all I do, right? I go out there, I work up to my 3 sets of whatever, and then I'm done. Tomorrow I'll do my bench. The next day I'll do this. Next day I do that. And if that takes 15 to 20 minutes, then cool.
And two, you got to admit, you have other priorities in life, right? So you're just trying to be the healthiest version of yourself. And
at the moment, right?
Maybe you drop off the kids somewhere and you get an hour here, and then that's when you do the hour that day. You just got to go here or there, right? Nothing's going to be perfect. And I've told like moms that I've had in the past that maybe your kids, when they get older, it's just going to be easier and they can take care of themselves. They can drive themselves to school and back. And then that's when you can really focus on yourself.
Right now, like, it's just, we got to make these sacrifices, right?
When the kids were little, dude, I like literally was just like half asleep, half dead.
I think it's y'all two who told us that you're like, I don't remember the first like 5 years of
it was just like chaos. And, you just go through it.
Hold on. Before we get to the last one, I'm going to add in one quick one, okay? Camille texted me today, and all she said is, I don't understand creatine. She sent me this post, and it says, taking creatine at the recommended level, parentheses 5 grams daily, has little to no effect on muscle growth. And I haven't read the article. I just read it right now. And so I want to say, go ahead. I want you to go first.
Okay. So the way creatine affects it is you get like extra reps during your workout and stuff. But recently I have learned 5 grams is recommended, but some people could take 10 grams. Some people could take 15 grams. This is where I've learned individual dosage is what matters again. And we're talking about creatine monohydrate. We're not talking about like any of the other creatine hybrids. And some people, they just don't do well with creatine. So like the article saying it's not going to help build muscle. Well, it doesn't magically build muscle. It just allows you to do more. It allows you to get bigger pump.
That's what I was about to say.
It allows you to just feel the reps more.
Yeah, it's like if I'm sitting here and I'm drinking creatine every day, it's not going to do shit. Yeah. I'm not going to grow. It's not supposed to. That's not what it does. It's
supposed to just aid.
Yeah, what it does is it helps you push harder in the gym, which then in turn causes more muscle growth, right? But the creatine itself has no ability to grow your muscle. It's not steroids.
Well, even steroids.
You have to give it a stimulus. Have to fucking work. It's still, you can't just do it.
You have to have a stimulus. Like, I don't understand. Like, these are aids. They're not.
The other day I was on YouTube, and I think that there was there was a ad for, like, I guess a testosterone clinic or something. And it was like, this is what would happen to a man if he took testosterone for 30 days. And he's going to lose body fat. And he's going to grow, muscle mass by this much. And I was like, no. None of that is going to happen.
Stay the same.
Unless you go to the gym. You might get a boner.
Oh, wow. That's different.
But even then, I need a fucking stimulus.
Well, this last question is kind of what creatine is. Do I have to push myself to failure to get gains?
Oh, okay.
Sometimes you do.
I think
you got to get as close as you can. That's what science is
talking about. Research, right? That we said earlier is that, like, the research says you got to be pretty damn close.
It's hard to judge.
Yeah, and I've heard that it's like, none of the sets that you do matter until your last set and your last 2 reps. If you don't hit failure in those last 2 reps, then, you didn't do anything.
Then that discounts the frequency principle.
Right, yeah. And then, so, I don't know. I think be careful with that, because you also you're not supposed to go to the gym and fucking push to failure every goddamn day all the time.
Your central nervous system would be fried.
Yeah, and then you're going to go backwards. Then you're not.
That's also why people like machine for hypertrophy, is because it's a lot safer because you get pushed to failure.
Maybe if you are going to do that all the time, you're like, no, I want to do that all the time. Okay, well, then you're going to have to use machines. You're not going to be deadlifting to failure all the time. That's fucking insane, dude. Yeah, you're going to feel like shit. So, I'm sorry. It just depends.
You start learning the really good individuals are like, it depends, and it's very individual. Yeah. Even like when I was listening to the functional dentist, she was like, well, there's a lot of factors. And, I'm like, fuck, give me an answer. And I'm like, well, that's actually probably the best answer.
I'm part of the problem.
That's probably the best answer. Yeah.
So deep.
Yeah. All right, guys. If you like what we're doing, you can check us out on Apple and Spotify. You can rate and review. Check us out on YouTube. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, and tell me I'm awesome. Our website is strengthsolutionspodcast.com. Free blogs, free guides, and programs for purchase. Email us strengthsolutionspodcast@gmail.com. That's where you can email us future fitness questions. TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, Strength Solutions Podcast. I'm Strength Solutions Edwin.
I'm Strength Solutions Nathaniel.
Peace out, buddies.
See ya.